Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. But you know what, man? We have a full show today. We are going to be talking to quite a few people. I need to go ahead and also make sure that we get all these things up to speed. Now, as it turns out, every so often what happens? You start out the day not the way it's supposed to be, but you somehow have to get it that way, and eventually you do. Well, that is what's happening today as I go ahead and program these babies in to make sure that we have this show out to you. We are going to, actually, you know what? We're going to have a great show no matter what, irrespective of all the while. So what are we going to talk about today? And by the way, folks, I'm not currently, I'm looking at some of, we're currently only on, as far as Facebook is concerned, on our main page, facebook.com/politics done right. It seems to me like as I am looking here that somehow we have some, how do I call this? Some Facebook linkage misbehavior, which I'm trying to mitigate as we speak. So let's see if there's going to be some mitigation here. Well, at least I got some mitigation on one particular page, and I'll get the rest done otherwise. Anyhow, today, title of the show is going to be Police Criminality, Media Timidity, Healthcare Fraud, Ranked Choice Voting, and Bottom-Up Governance. And I like the last two things. The last two things, I'm going to give you two interviews that I did in Philadelphia at Netroots Nation 2019. One of the people I interviewed was a young man, great guy doing some important progressive work on the ground. His name is Aaron Fowles with Ranked Choice Tennessee. And of course, the publisher of opednews.com. Anybody who wants to know the rag that really comes, the rags that is really in, I can't say in par because Daily Kos, I write for Daily Kos as well, and that is like the top #1 liberal, progressive rag in the country. But we have a more, a more hard-hitting site in opednews.com, and that is run by the publisher Kall. I interviewed him as well. We do quite a few things together as well, so I have that you've got to listen to as well. But anyhow, the title of the show today is Police Criminality, Media Timidity, Healthcare Fraud, Ranked Choice Voting, and Bottom-Up Governance. By the way, this is a call-in show as well, 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. You can watch us on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Periscope Live, and Twitch. So we are just about everywhere. And then, of course, the podcasts go live a few hours after the show is complete. Subtitle of the show, Much of how we are governed would be considered fraud if we were being objective. I repeat, much, and that is an important statement there that a lot of folks don't quite get. Much of how we are governed, listen to this well, much of how we are governed would be considered fraud if we were being objective. And you know what, folks, for all of you who are progressives, for all of you who are in this realm, it is important that you listen up here and that we get the job done, because we are the ones that are, I hate to just put it that way, we're going to open people's minds. Yeah, we're going to open people's minds, but it's more than opening people's minds. What we are going to do is we are going to be making a difference no matter what. Anyhow, Today, all right, we have a full show, and the key phrase is fraud on Americans. Today, we cover several topics, but they all coalesce into one thing. Our system is based many times on some type of fraud. This is true in the criminal justice and the policing system, healthcare, governance, media, and more. It is important that we get serious about informing Americans so that these cons are not manifested as truths or realities one cannot run from. And you know, folks, our millennial folks, people ask, why do you do that? Why are you guys doing that? We're going to be dependent on the millennials pretty soon. And right now we're leaving them not much. It is imperative that going forward, we do what is necessary. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember to share these programs. That is how we get the independent media going forward. You share not only on Facebook, you share not only on YouTube, you share not only on Twitter, you share on emails and on every platform there is. Here's the deal. Guess who finally lost his job? Finally, el señor Daniel Pantaleo. Daniel Pantaleo was the guy who used a chokehold and killed Eric Garner. It took 5 years. 5 years for a man, for a cop. Remember, you rarely convict a cop for killing a person of color. So all you've got is hoping you can have them lose their job, or hoping that they're marked, that that folks don't want to deal with them anymore. But the first fraud that I talk about is the policing of people of color. I'm going to move on to the others rather quickly, but I want you guys to absorb this. It doesn't matter if we have video showing police officers harming people of color. Somehow, the population at large is always able to find a justification. If you had just done what they told you, if you had just been quiet, if you had just been doing these things. Philando Castile did everything they told him to do. He had a permit to carry a gun. When asked if he had a gun, he said, yes, I have a gun. It is right there. Then they asked him, you need to give us your license. Sir, can I reach over and get the license? Yes. He goes over, gets the license, and what happens thereafter? He's gunned down, he's killed. I'm going to continue, but I have a caller. Let me bring the caller in real quickly, and then we'll continue with the show. But I don't like to leave callers hanging for too long. Caller, this is going to be a short one, so come on in, my brother, whoever is at 608 or 609.
Humberto, it's Paul.
Hey, Paul, what's going on, buddy?
Nothing.
Folks, Paul is my conservative, one of my great conservative listeners that we have great discussions on. Paul, I have a whole lot of stuff I have to go through. Is there something you want to tell me real quickly before we move on?
Just real quick, Eric Garner was not choked to death.
Okay.
Go review the tape, and watch it.
Okay.
Put in can I just let me get this out? I know you don't have much time.
Sure, go ahead, sir, real quickly.
Pantaleo put him in a chokehold. They took him to the ground. The chokehold was done. He was still talking, saying, I can't breathe, after that hold was released. So to say that he would die from a chokehold is not accurate. He died from positional asphyxia.
Okay, whatever.
I'm not saying the cops...
yeah, I got you. I know where you're going. And Paul, I'm with you, okay? I'm going to actually take your side, because Politics Done Right is known for accuracy. Okay, so I'm going to say I shouldn't just say he died from being choked. He died from the actions of that wayward cop. Is that better?
Well, it wasn't just him. You have to look at the whole thing.
Okay, Paul, I gotta go. But look, I hear what you want to say, Paul. I really do. But I gotta go on the show. Do you want me to leave you on hold, or should I hang up?
No, I'm actually somewhere. I just tuned in for a second. But
thank you, my brother.
Your viewers, your listeners, to go watch that tape and see exactly what happened.
You just told my viewers, sir, you got the opportunity to do that. Folks, this platform belongs to you all. Conservative, liberals, everybody. Of course, Paul, we'll talk some other time, okay? All right. Anyhow, folks, let's go ahead and continue the show. Anyhow, as I said, look, I'm going to give it to Paul. Paul said he didn't die from a chokehold. Okay. I am going to say I want to be accurate. He died from the results of what that cop did. And now I have another call. I'm going to continue with the show, but I have to take care of my callers because this is your all's show. Okay, caller, I'm not going to stay long with you, but come on in, my brother. Come on in.
Berto, you know I have to call you.
Johnny, talk to me.
Let me tell you something, Berto.
Yes.
Listen, New York City established a long time ago that chokeholds were illegal.
Right.
Okay? So the idea that this guy put an illegal chokehold on him and then he died of some other cause, listen, that's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that he's responsible for whatever happens to that person after that illegal chokehold is put in play.
Look, I think if you heard...
it doesn't matter. If he had a heart attack while that illegal chokehold is put on him, guess what? The officer is responsible for his death.
I think that's what really you heard me say to Paul, that, okay, I will get off the choke that the guy choked him to death. And what I would say is that the creep was still responsible. And I notice I used the word creep here because that's
Berto. No, Berto. That's an illegal hold. That was established by New York City Police Department that you're not allowed to use an illegal hold. So when you use an illegal hold, that means you are responsible for whatever happens after.
I agree.
In other words, the cop committed an illegal act.
I agree. I said that. I said that, my brother.
And then you've got this guy Paul calling in trying to justify it. It's not okay.
Okay.
It's not okay, and we had enough of this.
I know. I'm with you. I'm with you, Johnny. Notice what I said. It's somehow in this country, an officer can do as he pleases to a person of color, and somehow, rarely, except for that incident in North Carolina, they pay the price. But so we get it. We understand it.
And one more thing, Berto.
Yes, sir. Real quick.
One more thing, Berto.
Yes, sir.
How do you explain the fact that in the New York Times, they said that the 6 leading causes of death for black males is at the hands of police?
Oh, Johnny, you're speaking to the choir when you're talking to me, but we have an audience, so at least the audience knows that from what you've just said, sir.
I mean, are you kidding me? That kind of statistical anomaly should be something that immediately leads to one question. In 1996, there was an FBI report that came out and said that basically law enforcement had been overrun by white supremacists. And we need to purge law enforcement of the white supremacist groups that are in there. Because this is what you're seeing. And when the FBI came out with that report in 96, this was in 96 they said this. It's only been getting worse.
Sir.
So there's never been a purge.
Sir, and that is what we are supposed to do.
And that's why you have the 6 leading causes of death. And that's why you have the 6 leading causes of death of black males at the hands of white cops.
There you go. Thank you, my brother.
And yet,
I gotta go. Thank you.
Sorry, bye.
Have a good one, Johnny.
Bye.
All right, okay, folks, continuing with the show. So anyhow, I think they took the whole police officer segment away from me. It's theirs. That's fine. Next segment that we want to talk about, and this is rather important. When it comes to Medicare for All, and notice I'm talking about the fraud on Americans. The first one was a fraud on the criminal justice system. Well, not the policing of people of color. It's a fraud. Okay? And I think it needs to be expressed. Johnny did a good job in stating what's the biggest cause of death. People of color are no more criminals than anybody else. It's just that if you get into the system, if you are placed into the system, you can be counted. The people in this area that I live in Kingwood, the police officers stop them, slap them on the wrist, and they go somewhere. Everything is okay. There's no records. There's no way of counting that in an FBI statistic. So when people tell me, well, according to the FBI statistics, I usually tell them what, as a software developer, knows. BS in, BS out. Okay, the second subject, I want you to listen to this real quickly. I want you to listen to this, and then I'm going to talk about it on the other side.
Living with chest pain was limiting what my husband could do. When he was turned down for heart surgery, we learned about protected PCI with Impella, a treatment option for some high-risk heart patients who are not candidates for bypass surgery. If you or a loved one have been turned down for heart surgery, ask your doctor. and visit impella.com to learn about the procedure and see if it may be an option for you. We're so grateful to our heart team that protected PCI with Impella was an option for him and us.
There is so much to that ad, and very few people see that, and they just look at that ad and they say, oh wow, if something happens with my heart or I can't have this done, I can try to go ahead and get protected PCI with Impella. Let me first tell you what that is. Protected PCI is a manner of opening the veins up in your heart or something like that, balloon angioplasty and some other pieces. Okay, that's what it is. But now there's a new technique that there's this real thin thing that they can put up your groin, get into your heart, and as they open the heart, they also pump your blood through that little pipe. It's a pump that impels the blood through the aorta. Okay? So, there are so many complexities to that particular commercial, that ad, that shows how screwed up Medicare, or rather, how screwed up healthcare for profit is, right? And what do I mean by that? The first thing that should step out to somebody who listens to a commercial like that is, and first, let me be clear. You hear nice music, and a woman is with her husband. Her husband is golfing. He has chest pains, but he cannot have this open heart surgery. So there's another option for him to use other than standard regular PCI. He's now suggested that he can have protected PCI with Impella. Okay, the first part about it is this. Wait a minute. Notice what they say. If you were not approved or you couldn't have heart surgery, there are two reasons you can't have heart surgery. One is some insurance company says, I don't want to take the risk of cracking you open because you may cost me more later. And if you cost me more later, that affects my shareholders. That's one option. The other option is a real option, that you're really too darn sick to get the operation. But whenever we are talking Medicare for all, we are always up against people who say, if we go for Medicare for all, that's government takeover of healthcare. And if government takeover of healthcare, there's going to be rationing, and somebody's going to be telling you what procedures you can have, what medications you can take. And what I've been trying to tell people is we've been doing that all along. And not that Medicare for all is going to be much more efficient, and you're going to be able to have more procedures. And not only that, as opposed to private insurance, which tells you what doctor you can go see, the ones in plan, the ones that are not out of plan, the ones that are in plan. You go out of plan and it charge you $1 million. They tell you what drugs you can take, whether generic or otherwise, and they tell you what procedures you can have and what appendages you can have, what prosthesis you can have. Your insurance company is your master. They tell you what they will have and will have you have. And the reason they do that is they have to maximize their profits for the executive salaries and the shareholders. If you're run by Medicare, you don't have a set of doctors you can only see. You can see anybody. And if a doctor says this is a procedure to have and it is what we decide Medicare for all covers, you got it, baby. It is a lie that it's so hard to get across with beautiful music telling you, I am your master. That commercial had two ways of telling you, I am your master, and one way of saying, and I also want to rip you off. Let me tell you the rip off portion now, okay? Here's what they're saying. Wait a minute, if the insurance company says no, and by the way, if you're not going to have standard angioplasty, which costs between $800 to $1,000, guess what? We will give you protected, we will give you an option to go and get privately protective PCI with Impella. You know how much that costs? $22,000. $22,000 to get protected PCI with Impella. And then I did some more research on the internet and found out all these doctors that are pushing this procedure. Oh, why we did this test with just regular angioplasty and this other and protected PCI because of the infusion rate. And I'm listening to this stuff and I'm like, oh my God, Folks, do you understand why Medicare for All is the only option? And I got another caller, and I am at 20, so I still have enough time for those 2 videos. So let's go ahead. Caller, real quickly, come on in. That's 209. Come on in.
Hey, it's Sally. How are you?
Sally, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm hanging in there and literally by a thread now. But I had to call in because over the weekend I saw one of the Democratic candidates, there's so many I can't find which one it is now, scared a bunch of seniors and asked them if they like their, because most of the seniors now on Medicare also have to have a supplement insurance.
Right.
And so he's scared, I think it's Delaney. I'm not sure.
It's probably Delaney.
Yeah,
yes.
He was telling them, well, under Medicare for All, you can't have. There won't be any insurance companies, and you won't have supplemental anymore. The thing is that he's falsely putting that out there because there will be no need for supplemental insurance when we have Medicare for All.
Hey, look, it is sad that we have Democrats now using Republican talking points for why they are against Medicare for All. And what we need from you, Sally, and we need from all the listeners of Politics Done Right and these other programs is for you to be the truth teller. In other words, at this point in time, the way that you caught that is more important than you know, Sally, because you know that, right? You know what is more effective than anything else? The most effective thing is for you now to go ahead and say, hey, this is what I heard. He was absolutely wrong. The truth of the matter is, if we do X, Y, Z, we no longer have to worry about, we don't even have Medicaid Advantage, which costs 20% more. I mean, we go on and on and on and on. And what you have done, let me tell you, what you have done by you being your average person out there that realized the con, and notice I called today's show about fraud, because you understand what the con is. People listen to people closest to them. So that is what's so important about you, my friend. Anything else that you want to add before I jump into the other part of the show, my friend?
No, I'll let you carry on because we could sit there and talk about that.
We could talk forever, Sally. We could talk forever.
I'll let you carry on with your show. I just wanted to put my little 2 cents in.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, Sally. Hey, folks. So anyhow, I wanted you guys to see that ad because that ad had 2 parts to it. One, it was showing you that some private insurance company could deny you your service for your heart health, even though you're having chest pains, and then there is another vulture ready to take you that says, hey, but if somebody else tells you no, we can tell you yes for $22,000. But they don't tell you it quite like that. They play nice music. They talked about Impala, PCI, protected PCI with Impala, and guess what you got? You got great health care now. You can go spend $22,000, and I can guarantee you, when you go to that hospital, they will make paying for that easy. They'll tell you, okay, you can take out the credit here, and you can do X, Y, Z here and there. Folks, that is a system we live in. That is a system we have to fight against. That is a system that I am trying to explain we got to get off. One last thing before I get into the next interview, and this one is with Chuck Todd. Everybody talks about why is it that Donald Trump's rating just won't fall? And it just won't fall because we have normalized Donald Trump. But people ask, what do you mean by we have normalized Donald Trump? Well, people at some time had more confidence in the Chuck Todds. I'm not saying Chuck Todd specifically. I'm just using him as a placeholder. But they had some confidence that, well, these guys, the way they hit up Obama, the way they hit up Clinton, the way they hit up all these other guys, that just maybe if they're not hitting up Trump that way, maybe he's not all that bad, and maybe we have really changed normality. No, we haven't changed normality. We have not changed normality. Normality was changed for us in order to attain some ulterior motive, And that ulterior motive is a continued cannibalization of the middle class. In other words, the transfer of wealth from the middle class. And how is that happening? Or why is that happening? Well, we've taken away from most of the people we could take away from. So we have to make it that as we extract more from the regular folks that were safe at one time, we have to make it that these people are at other people's throats and all that kind of stuff. And if that's the way, they don't look at where the problem really is. But anyhow, the whole thing that I wanted to talk about, Chuck Todd, is listen to it and then I'll tell you at the other side. In fact, I think I explained it in the whole thing already. Here it goes. Many wonder why Donald Trump has that start of a steady poll number. Well, that's because the media isn't doing its job. Yes, they're attacking him now, but in the places where they should, they don't. Check out his response to this journalist and how it just goes on. This is an interview that this journalist did in Michigan with what would have been one of Trump voters. Check this out.
I interviewed a guy in Michigan and asked him, how has President Trump been for your economic prosperity? He's got a manufacturing business.
Many wonder why Donald Trump has that start of a steady poll number. Well, that's because the media isn't doing its job. Yes, they're attacking him now, but in the places where they should, they don't. Check out his response to this journalist and how it just goes on. This is an interview that this journalist did in Michigan with what would have been one of Trump voters. Check this out.
I interviewed a guy in Michigan and asked him, how has President Trump been for your economic prosperity? He's got a manufacturing business, a roofing business that's booming like crazy. And he says, it's been great for my business. And then I asked him, would you do business with Donald Trump? And he said, I'd get half the money first.
We talked about Peggy, sort of, I think, alluded to this.
And there you have it. A timid laughter, a fearful laughter, and ignore the journalist, dismiss what he had to say, which is substantive, right? If you think that you can't trust your own president financially, that is something of interest. Chuck lets it go. He goes ahead and he laughs about it. Not laughs, a rather timid giggle, and immediately move on. Ignore the subject. That is how Trump becomes Trump. That is how we don't get his poll numbers where they really belong. Okay, so the whole sorry about that little mishap. I forgot this one was should have been played in a bigger screen, all that good stuff. But anyhow, you know how this technical stuff goes. Every now and then you mess up. Anyhow, so if you want to know what is the genesis of a lot of what's going on with Donald Trump, you have to understand that it's all a big circle. And the most important part is the following, and I've spoken about this before. They will allow Donald Trump to do as he pleases because he's serving a function. He's a cover for not Mitt Romney, or the guy who runs the Senate, McConnell. He's the cover for McConnell, who is appointing judges all over the place. And why is he doing it? Yes, Trump is nominating these guys. But what they are realizing is that they are setting up minority rule. We're going to have a Democratic Congress and Senate, and we're going to have a Democratic president. Most likely, we're going to have more progressives in power. And the idea is as progressive policies come out, instead of these progressive policies getting implemented, the first thing is going to happen is anybody who has standing on some policy is going to sue, and then the Supreme Court, who interprets the Constitution, will eventually name a lot of these things unconstitutional. That is one of the reasons I tell people we don't only need a majority. We need a super majority, because what's going to come into play pretty darn soon is that we're going to have to start impeaching judges. That's the only resolution you have in this country against the unilateral nature of the judiciary, and that is to impeach judges, which is difficult because it takes either 3/4 or something like that to impeach them. But anyhow, without any further ado, the first person that I want to play here is El Señor Rob Kall. Rob Kall is the publisher of Op-Ed News. That is a hard-hitting website. It's a progressive website. You'll find a whole lot of journalists there, including my favorite guy. I mean, shoots. You know something, man? El cráneo no está funcionando como debe funcionar, pero ¿quién importa? But anyhow, let's go ahead and play Rob Kall, and then we'll come back on the other side. Another mini edition of Politics Done Right. And who am I here with? The one and only Rob Kall, who is the founder, who is the publisher of Op-Ed News, one of the most important progressive rags, progressive websites, progressive blog sites in the country. Rob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a great meeting here and lots of excitement.
It's a lot of excitement. Before we even get started, I want you to introduce a new book that you wrote that we discussed on a previous version of Politics Done Right.
Here's the book.
Here is the book. The book is titled The Bottom Up Revolution, okay?
Yeah.
And what I want to ask you is, what is the genesis of the book?
Well, it started because I started taking a bottom-up approach to op-ed news, and which means I decided I wanted to let the users have a big voice in the policies that were made and how decisions were made. And it really worked, and op-ed news really took off. So we started seeing hundreds and thousands of people every month. And I got fascinated, well, what is bottom up? You know, and most people don't have a clue what bottom up is. They really don't.
Well, give me in a minute synopsis, what is bottom up? Because I had that ready to ask you, and you kind of brought it up. So what is bottom up?
Bottom up is a collective way of working together. People evolved before civilization in small hunter-gatherer bands to be bottom up. They took care of each other. They helped each other. They thought about how their behaviors and actions would affect everybody else. And that's what we should be doing now. Just because there are a lot more of us, we still need to function that way. But instead, civilization brought top down with hierarchy and centralization and domination, and we need to go back to bottom up. And the good news is smartphones and the internet are catalyzing a return, and it's exploding because it's in our genes. So we are bottom up beings. We just have to learn how to return to bottom up.
Ironically,
that's what the book is about.
Yeah, ironically, in as much as we look at that as progressive ideas, you just told me something that I can actually understand. You're starting to find that conservatives are, I'd like to say, co-opting much of what you're saying in the book.
I would rather say that conservatives are also think that bottom up is their value, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's maybe another place where we can have a conversation and find things to agree about.
And that is a good thing. And one of the things that we do here at Politics Done Right is we try to get all voices. And as I was mentioning before, the best way to come to good policy is have all the sides, have equal opportunity to put their ideas out there, and then let the decision come from the masses of the bottom, what we prefer.
Rather than a handful of powerful people putting their thumbs on the scale, which is what you get with the primaries like we have now.
Exactly.
You got to let the people decide. I'm involved in local politics, and the local politicians, the committee people of the Democratic Party think that they should decide who to endorse in a primary for a Democratic race. No, the people are smart enough to do it themselves. Bottom up means trust the people.
Absolutely. You know what? That's a good way to close this. But before, give me a quick feel of what you think or how you think progressive media is going, both from funding and exposure.
Well, it's really a struggle right now. I mean, there used to be money coming in from advertising, and that's gotten much harder, decreased a lot. In this cycle of the 2020 presidential campaign, everybody's asking for money, and progressive media need money too. And we're the voices that challenge the candidates. We're the voices that bring up the issues. You need us. We're an important part of the conversation, and it's really important that listeners and readers consider that and help to fund us. It doesn't happen for nothing.
Exactly. Rob, thank you so kindly for being with me.
It's a pleasure.
You have a
Great to
wonderful
see
day.
you. Great
to
meet
see you. Okay, that was Rob Kall. I have a lot of respect for that guy. He has one of the larger progressive sites as well. You should check it out, opednews.com, opednews.com. This other young man now, I met this guy at Netroots Nation 2019 here in Philly a few weeks ago as well. His name is Aaron Fowles. He runs the Ranked Choice Tennessee. And I'd leave it up to him to explain exactly what ranked choice voting is. But you know, one of the things that we have to do is, right now you turn on the TV, right? You don't see none of this stuff on TV. You don't see them talking about what progressives and other activists are doing on the ground, in the field, to make this a better society. There are a lot of people working. There are a lot of folks making a difference. You got the DSA that's doing its thing. You have Swing Left that's doing their thing. You have Indivisible that's doing their thing. If you want to know why progressives had a huge win in 2018, this was a time where they all coalesced onto a mission. They all coalesced onto a mission. And that mission was partly accomplished. Now, come 2020, we have to decide whether we are going to stick together to do this stuff again or not. I hear a few rumbles every now and then, but I tell you what, if there's one thing we're going to do here is to try to keep folks together and realize that we're all one, working for what we need to get moving to win 2020 all the way. But I'm not talking about just win 2020 50 plus 1. I'm talking about talking to the hearts of people, talking to the logic of people. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, but a lot of folks don't want to listen to what we're saying. No. If one comes with a particular sense of humility, let's use Politcs Done Right as an example. I have dedicated conservative listeners and callers. They don't necessarily agree with me, but because they are given their due respect, and they give it back. Yeah, we fight, they give it back. There's something that can get done, and we can even have many of them vote in their interest. Remember, conservative and progressive can be cultural at times, but interests we share many times in common. But without going all preachy again, let's go to Aaron Fowles, Ranked Choice Tennessee. Love the way this guy expressed himself. Love the way this guy covered the material. Here it goes. We are back, Politcs Done Right, in Philadelphia with Netroots Nation 2019. Look, we again are here in the presence of people that are on the ground working. You know, that is something that we talk about all of the times, and we're going to continue to talk about. We have in our presence Aaron Fowles, Program Director of Ranked Choice Tennessee. How are you doing, my dear friend?
Very well, thank you so much.
Now tell me, look, Tennessee. When we think Tennessee, we don't normally think things that one would consider a progressive type of issue that I consider this. I don't know about others, but I consider this a very progressive issue.
Tennessee has got a long progressive history. There is in East Tennessee something called the Highlander Center, which is a training ground for progressive activists, where Martin Luther King Jr. himself did a lot of early training. And Northeast Tennessee, East Tennessee has got more of a history. I mean, Memphis, the civil rights movement.
Right, well, that is true. That's true.
So now we're in a different era where nationally we have red state politics. And I'll take that back. We'll say we have a conservative ethic and a conservative politic, but you've got where people are living closely together,
right,
and the disparities that result from that. You get people finding new ways and new solutions.
Right.
And ranked choice voting is just one that addresses a few issues.
Okay, first of all, let's talk about what exactly is ranked choice voting, and secondly, why.
Okay. Ranked choice voting is a simple upgrade to our voting that can have a dramatic impact in our elections. Instead of voting for one person when you go to the ballot box, you rank candidates in order of preference. In this way, a runoff is simulated without requiring a second visit to the polls. In Memphis, where I live, the drop-off between a general election and a runoff election is 80%.
Oh my God! Wow.
And most of that drop-off is concentrated in low-income communities of color.
Right.
There is one precinct in particular where the drop-off was 95%. And this is attributable to lack of transportation, lack of childcare, lack of time off work, and the fact that data-driven campaigns target super voters, certain turnout voters, and data-driven campaigning in regular plurality two-run runoff elections doesn't encourage candidates to reach out to these voters or to represent them when they're in office.
It's funny because I call that what is that process where you had to pay to vote? I call that it's sort of pseudo type.
That's the poll tax.
Right.
Being able to get to the ballot box.
Right.
Now, in Tennessee, we have early voting 2 weeks. Now, in some municipalities, specifically I know for Nashville, that first week of early voting is only at one location.
Right.
So that's great if you live or work near that one location. You get an extra week to vote.
Right.
But if you're in Antioch, which is southeast Nashville, and that's going to take a bird scooter or somehow there's some transportation system that isn't really extant. In Memphis, they try to do that. They try to limit early voting in the first 3 days to one early voting location in a rather nice part of town, which has a partisan balance, Democrat-Republican, but not a racial balance.
Right.
And so somebody who wanted to go from Whitehaven, which is ironically named, to go to that area, it'd take 2 hours on a bus.
Right.
And then there was an activist who actually did that bus ride to prove it.
Right.
So my animation is, if you can make it to the polls, if you can overcome these barriers to voting, if you can pay the figurative poll tax of getting your butt out there, your vote should count. And you shouldn't have to do it twice. For me, it doesn't matter. I hop in my Prius, and I go. But I used to work at an elementary school, and I worked on an election. It was a polling place.
Right.
People would drop their kids off and leave, and in the afternoon I'd say, "Hey, did you vote today?" No. You vote early?
Yes.
No. You vote absentee? No. Why not? They say, "Dude, I got 3 kids, 2 jobs, 1 car, no time." So if you can overcome that once, that should be enough. And we have a way to do it. That results in a majoritarian candidate.
And not only that, it results in the right candidate really getting elected.
The candidate who gets elected enjoys the broadest amount of support possible.
Exactly.
And it's measurable.
Right.
That's important to me, that it's measurable.
Right. So are you getting a lot of resistance in Tennessee?
Significant, namely from elected officials and campaign
consultants.
Both sides,
or is it based
on... both sides. This is nonpartisan. We've heard that this is a Republican ploy to get Republicans elected. That's a Democrat ploy to get Democrats elected. We've heard racial overtones over it. The people who support it are the people who understand it, and the people who want their elections to be easier, cheaper, faster, and broader.
There's an underlying story here that many don't talk about, and there's a reason why I would say people don't want it on both sides, and that is it costs a lot of analysts, consultants, and all of those others quite a bit of big money, because when they have those reruns, it costs a whole lot of money to run that, and somebody's making a hell of a lot of money on that.
There was an election in Nashville. It was a runoff for a vice mayor. Right. So there was a special election, and then that went to a runoff. In the special election, about 90,000 people voted for vice mayor. In the runoff, which cost $750,000, 30,000 people voted. So they had about a 66% drop-off, and they had to pay $750,000 to do it.
And when you say they had to pay for that election, remember the amount of companies that are paid out of that $700,000. Who wants to lose the opportunity to get that?
And for me, if an election commission knows that it doesn't have to budget for a subsequent runoff election, it can open up more polling places in the general.
Absolutely.
I mean, so this could literally provide voting access for more people. And anecdotally, when RCV is introduced in a municipality, turnout increases. Now, it's hard to say that it's causative.
The correlation, right.
It's definitely correlated, but there's no data to say that it is correlated. Or
the
causative, excuse me. So, I mean, if you can make it to the ballot box, your vote should count. Now, in Memphis, this has been on the charter since 2008, but it's never been implemented. And it was obstruction from our own city council. And let me tell you how obstructive they were. there's a radio show, also, they're Facebook and online, and it's run by a shock jock preacher kind of guy.
Right.
And the shock jock preacher was there, and there was a city council member who was sitting right next to him, an elected official sitting right next to him. And the preacher started talking about me, because I was active in the Save IRB Memphis campaign to keep it on the charter. He read off my phone number. He read off my address, where my wife and children sleep at night. He read it off on air, with a city council member sitting right next to me.
Wow. That is sad. Well, I tell you what, why don't you tell folks again what the Ranked Choice Tennessee is all about? What are you trying to promote, and how would you like to see that run across Tennessee, across other states, across the country?
We're an organization that provides education and advocacy around ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting is a method of voting where you rank your candidates in order of preference, typically 1, 2, and 3, sometimes more. It can be used for single-member or multi-member districts. My sole mission right now is purely to let people know how this system works. We also advocate for its passage. We've worked in Memphis and Nashville, and we hope to work in other cities in in Tennessee to begin with the eventual goal of seeing if people across the state want it. This is all about what people actually want and measuring it. And so if we find a way to measure that people want it, they should have it. Memphis has got provisions in the Constitution for home rule. So there are some cities that can do it by referendum. So we're working on that. We've received pushback from the state election coordinator. Ranked Choice Tennessee has recently successfully intervened in this administrative lawsuit, which will probably be appealed to Chancery Court eventually. If the administrator finds, similar to how we found in the last suit, was that he believes, for reasons that I don't believe, that ranked choice voting doesn't comply with state law, we're going to get a judge to actually look at it and make a determinative ruling, not a non-binding opinion. And then we really want to focus on seeing if this could help elsewhere in the South. There are several southern states that use ranked choice voting for overseas and military voters.
Right.
Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Springfield, Illinois, I think. And if it's good enough for military and overseas voters, let's give all voters a chance to use this. The system that makes voting more equitable. Tennessee doesn't have no excuse absentee voting.
Right.
If we could all vote at home in our pajamas, this might be a moot point. But we don't have that yet. So this is an opportunity within municipalities to make this kind of change. Now, the Memphis City Council tried to get ranked choice voting outlawed statewide. They paid a lobbying firm with Memphis tax dollars to try to get somebody to carry the bill in the Senate. We beat that. Then they spent $40,000 more tax dollars on a public education campaign, which was really just campaigning for the repeal.
Right.
We beat that. So the people of Tennessee are speaking ever more loudly on this issue, and we're just trying to amplify those voices.
Aaron Fowles, keep up the good work. Grassroots is what's going to take.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That was Aaron Fowles. With guys like that on the ground, I think, and not only when I see guys like that, it's not only that they're on the ground, but we have a lot of young people, which means they're going to be around for a long time, that are pushing these things, and that is what we are going to need. Young people out there pushing and pushing to turn this juggernaut around, right? We've got to turn this juggernaut around. Anyhow, folks, when I was out there at Netroots, I did 48 of those interviews. So I still have quite a bit more material to that I need to present. And the reason I did these interviews, right, is because these are people that are doing a whole lot of stuff on the ground, and a lot of folks around the country don't know about it. So by us doing this, and then it's not only what folks watch live, but what folks are going to see on the podcast, on the vlogcast, on iTunes. This is going to be everywhere because these guys need that exposure so that people know that, this kind of stuff generates activity, right? In other words, as more people see more people doing things, more people do things. And that's what we have to do. It's not going to be on ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, and these things telling folks what to do, or telling folks that, yes, you can make a difference, or telling folks to get engaged. It's going to be people on the ground doing things. And what the mainstream media does, or do, because it's media plural, what they make sure to do is they make sure not to give these guys exposure. And there's a reason why. They do not give these folks exposure for a reason. I got a call. Come on in, 904. Come on in. Or 901. Come on in.
Hey, it's Aaron Fowles.
Aaron Fowles, how you doing, my friend? How's it going in Tennessee?
It continues to go, man. We've expanded our reach across the state to Knoxville and Chattanooga, so now we're operating in Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga, and we're getting more and more groups of people who are interested in learning about ranked choice voting.
Well, folks, this is a guy that we just had on, Aaron Fowles. So, Aaron, while you're here, why don't you go ahead and give a 2-line synopsis of what you're doing and tell folks in other states what they need to do who are listening to this program.
Absolutely. So Ranked Choice Tennessee is conducting voter education statewide about ranked choice voting using interactive demonstrations and simulations, presentations, anything that we can do to make sure that people fully understand RCV, because we have found that the greatest impediment to supporting ranked choice voting is a lack of understanding of ranked choice voting. So we are working very hard on that. We're developing materials, videos. We're even working with somebody to develop an online simulation for ranked choice voting. That should be very, very cool.
Nice.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're really geeked about that. No worries. And anyone else who's interested in getting involved in the Ranked Choice Tennessee process, fairvote.org has a list of different state organizations that are pushing this work all across the country.
That is excellent. It's great to know that you're making progress, and and thank you for listening in. Please remember to share this around so folks can, we really have to do this. I have also going to separate this into its own blog with your particular narrative. So we'll have this as an entire hour program, and later on I'm going to split out your stuff for a blog that we can actually just stick on this subject. Because today we took care of about 5 or 6 different subjects, but all of these different subjects can stand on their own right. Look, Aaron, thank you for calling. And anything else you want to tell our folks on air?
No, have a great day.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, my friend. You take care and keep up the good work, okay?
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. Anyhow, that was Aaron. He's the director who we interviewed out there at Netroots Nation, the director of Ranked Choice Tennessee. Ranked Choice Tennessee. All right, you know what? I will always forget to do this, so I'm going to try to do it real quick. Progressive media needs your support. And there are several ways to support us, of course. One of the ways to support us is to go ahead and to please become a subscriber at patreon.com/politics done right. That is patreon.com/politics done right. What we ask is that you do a monthly coffee for Politics Done Right. Monthly coffee or a couple of a couple of coffees a month or whatever you can afford. If you think this is worth the work that we're doing, which this is important work. As you see, we bring people in from all over. So just go to patreon.com/politics done right. By the way, you can go to politicsdoneright.com. And it gives you all the different places that you can find support. The other way you can support us is to just shop at our store, store.politicsdoneright.com. Hey, you want a Politics Done Right cup? We got Politics Done Right cups. And we can also get you your Politics Done Right. I got to put it like this. T-shirts, Politics Done Right. We have all kinds of T-shirts. We have all kinds of stuff at store.politicsdoneright.com. We even have shirts that say things like, a woman has already won the presidency, and we have things that have stuff towards AOC, and we have the squad. So check out our store, store.politicsdoneright.com. You can also go ahead and go to our GoFundMe. Our GoFundMe for new equipment. This is I'm going to do a little video for our subscribers of our setup here with all the mixers and so forth. But One of the things that being a very small thing is that we have to do all the video processing ourselves and so forth. And we want a faster processor so that we can spend less time, so that we can do more research, right? Because if you're spending a whole lot of time processing the videos, you don't have the CPU power as fast as you can, means that that's time that you're not doing other things. So we want to upgrade some of the stuff. You guys that have contributed to the GoFundMe so far, we had enough to, along with some other things, to go ahead and get the laptop that we use, the super fast laptop that we used to get those videos at Netroots Nation, but we need to continue the upgrade. So several ways for you to assist Politics Done Right, for you to assist what I call independent media, the necessary independent media, as Rob Kall was talking about. It's not only the politicians that need support. Independent media that's going to tell folks how things are need the support as well. So please, please, please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, or just go to politicsdoneright.com, and there are several options that you have there that you can support us, the store, you can support us at the Patreon, or you can just go give a PayPal contribution or the GoFundMe page. Everybody who subscribed gets all my books, right? In other words, you can read all my books online. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, the book that I'm writing right now, How to Make America Utopia. I'm behind on it, folks. You can hold it against me, but there's so much happening that I am kind of slow. I'm still on chapter 4. If you have ideas that you want me to put into the book that make it in the book, I'll even attribute it to you and put your name in the book if you so kindly want as well. And I've told you guys about my health issues in the past, which I've overcome with lose weight. And I told my story with lose weight and be fit now. So I turned it into a book to try to help raise some funds for Politics Done Right. So you want to see how I did it and how you can lose weight and be fit now. Say no to snake oil weight loss. You can get this all at Amazon.com, or you can just go to store.politicsdoneright.com to do that. So please find a way to support us. It's worth it. We're doing the work for you. Anyhow, we're getting close to the end of the show. I thank you so kindly. I thank you so kindly for spending this time with us. We cannot do it without you. And I'm not only talking about being subscribers. I'm not only talking about being contributors. I'm talking about being folks who will share the program widely. I'm talking about folks who contribute to the program, those folks that call in. Many times people call in and school me. Many times people call in and put out information that needs to be put out there. Let me tell you the kind of program this is. This is the kind of program where there's no shame. There's no elitism here. Everybody matters. Everybody counts. That is one thing progressives, conservatives, and many have forgotten. They are so much into their own ideology that they forget the most important ideology is humanity. And if you can think human first, it doesn't really matter if somebody is well, it does matter for policy, don't get me wrong. But you will be able to entertain and be with just about anybody because you think humanity first. And that is where I want to take this up. I want us to be aggressive, progressives. I want us to be in your face. But I want us to do all of this respectfully, respecting everybody's humanity. That is why you see I call them my conservatives, my conservative listeners. When I look and I say, I love these folks, I'm serious, I want to talk to everybody. Let's keep that in mind. If we can do that, we will because the fight isn't between us. The fight is between us and an economic system that is killing us, an economic system that is killing the planet, an economic system that see you as nothing more than something to control. And if you are nothing more than something to control, you are not a slave necessarily, but an indentured servant on the way to slavery. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3.